How often do you sit down at your desk and start feeling miserable, desperately looking for inspiration? Dear fellow citizens of the world, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Nick. I'm a career coach, and on this channel, we talk about career, mindset, and personal growth. Today, we are talking about how to stay productive even when you don't have an ounce of motivation flowing through your veins. We already talked about finding your why in a previous video, but what do you do next? So let me tell you a bit more about myself and how I usually proceed in my career so that you have a better idea of what I'm talking about. I don't really enjoy routines per se. I get bored easily. I'm always jumping on the edge of my seat. I like movement, I like actions, but I don't like repetition. But the problem with that, and I've noticed after the years, is that if you don't create routine systems or if you don't know how to structure your environment, usually the results and the satisfactions are not there, which was my case before. And a few months ago, I decided to start this YouTube channel. Honestly, in the beginning, it was intended to just help me communicate information and help people who could be watching those videos. But I quickly realized that actually the benefits that I was getting from doing YouTube videos are much beyond just feeling comfortable in front of a camera and sharing a message. I feel more grounded, I feel more structured, I feel more useful, and I feel more productive. And that's the benefits I've been getting from showing up and shooting those YouTube videos on a weekly basis. Now, how did I do it? And here's 4 tips that could help you in your career and your life as well to make sure that you can be more productive even when you have no motivation whatsoever. Number 1, create a routine for yourself regarding a specific process or project. Here, I'm talking about making YouTube videos, which obviously don't happen in one day. The whole process takes time to plan, the scenario, the script, the recording, the editing, and each day essentially is dedicated to one specific activity. So what I did here is kind of mixing up the fun factor with the obligation factor. And the fact that it's a whole process and I cannot really skip one step to move to the next forces me to show up each time. So essentially, because I do 2 videos per week, it's a whole structure around it and I cannot really skip any steps. If I skip brainstorming, I cannot move on to shooting. If I skip editing, I cannot publish the video. So this structure allows me, by being a routine somehow, to be productive even when I really don't want to write anything. Now, number 2, once you get this skeleton, this outline of a routine, you can start adding meat around the bones. I have this structure for my week, which greatly helps me understand how I'm going to structure the rest of my activities around this YouTube routine. So for example, because it's a weekly structure, it's much more tangible and much more easy to implement than, let's say, meditating to feel more relaxed or going to the gym to gain a few pounds. This has a long-term effects, but this routine that I'm implementing with my YouTube process is really weekly. So if I don't show up one week, you can imagine how messed up the rest of the month is going to be. So because this structure is in place every day, every week, I can start adding new activities around it. So it could be prospecting in the afternoon, it could be coaching in the morning, but everything falls around this routine, which is extremely helpful to structure my week. And before that YouTube routine, it was hard for me to focus when should I be doing what. And especially when I fell down, no inspiration, no motivation, then of course, nothing would get done. So again, creating that bone structure and adding everything around it to make sure that this bone is really the strong part of your routine of your week. And then you can start feeling comfortable adding more activities or tasks around it. Now, number 3, adding tasks for work is great and it helps you be productive because you don't need to think anymore. You have this system in place, but I would always forget to add some time off, some relaxation time that is really, really necessary. And one of the reasons why I would never do it, it's because before I had this structure, before I had this system, I would take some time off, go on vacation or just a day off, and it was painful to come back to work. Now, since I started this routine, again, I don't have to question whether or not I'm happy or not to come back from my day off, my holiday, because I know tomorrow is scripting day for YouTube. I cannot miss on it. And I organize other activities around it. So it's a whole ecosystem that is necessary for you to be productive, even when you lose your motivation. Which leads to number 4, the reason why this routine and the system are really incredible. It's because having something in place that you don't need to think about removes the time when you are overthinking things, you're pondering, you're worrying about something, you are definitely not inspired about it. Essentially, you remove the emotional aspect of it because it's a procedure now. You don't put emotions, you don't need any subjectivity. It's very clear-cut, very objective. You just need to follow it, which removes the time you spend or waste overthinking things and hoping that you're going to get inspired just by feeling struck by a lightning, for example. So for me to have this system in place is like almost like crossing the streets. You don't think about, oh, I need to look left and right. You do it automatically because you've been doing it for a long time and your brain doesn't need to think about it anymore. So this routine helps me remove all the emotional baggage that I need to drag just to make a simple decision. And because it's a simple decision, it's much easier to do it repeatedly, week after week, day after day. And it's much easier to get motivated even when you are not truly inspired. So what are the 3 takeaways from today's video? Number 1, routines or systems are pretty much a double-edged sword. They bring stability and efficiency, yet at the same time, they can bring complacency and boredom. And your responsibility is to find the right balance. How much of a routine is enough and how much is too much? So this is for you to experiment and see what works for you. Number 2, systems and routines allow you to remove the emotional aspect of decision making. So you don't need to be motivated. You are focused on something objective and automatically you do what you're supposed to. And number 3, again, just experience and experiment different routines, different system, what works for you, what feels fulfilling and productive versus what feels painful or boring. So what system or routine could you implement this week to make sure your work is made easier and more productive? Map it out, try it out for about a month and see how it works. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss 2 videos each week about career, mindset, and personal growth, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you again in our next video.